everybody, good morning. This is Jean here, Jean's Block Party 2019. We are more than halfway there to making our quilt, you beginners and you intermediate and expert quilters alike. I'm hoping you're enjoying the blocks that we've made. This week I have a fairly easy block and a little bit of a complicated block, and I'm going to explain that to you. The easy block is block number 25. Very simple. It's a basic 9 patch, but with this unit here that has almost like a butterfly. These two half square triangles made into, or these two units made into this little butterfly unit. Again, I used for the background fabric, and then I used 3 different fabrics for the I changed it up, the butterfly units here, and then the background, high contrast, of course. You could use all sorts of different fabrics. You could just use 2 fabrics, just have these the same color in the background. You could have a darker background with lighter fabrics, change it up. I show you how to cut and make these, and again, if it looks as if the these outside blocks are slightly bigger than the in, it's because they're not sewn into the seams yet. So this block will end up just like this side unit here. I mean the center unit here there. So that's block number 25. I give you the instructions for it. A little bit. We're working with smaller units this week. We're cutting smaller units, but not hard if you just take it step by step. This is block number 26. It's a little bit of a star that is a little bit tough because it has 36 pieces in it. Or wait a second, it has 24 pieces, excuse me, it's 24 pieces, but I'll come to that. That's block 26, this is block number 25. Yeah, I hope you're enjoying the block party, the tutorials to follow, and yeah, that's our little block. I made it with my red and whites this week, so yeah, have at it, and thanks a lot. See you later. Tune into block 26, and I'll explain it. Okay, see ya, bye. So we are on to block 25. Oh my word, 25 this week. Block number 25. And what we need for this is obviously very high contrast. That's what makes a block. I always say that, and I'm like, yeah, high contrast fabrics. So for fabric A, which is what I would call my background fabric here, let me just put a pin here. This is my background fabric, my dots. What you're wanting to cut is you're wanting to cut four 3.5 inch squares. I have 4 3.5 inch squares here. And then you're wanting to cut 3 4.25 inch squares. Oh, I better put inch, because you might think that's feet. No, you wouldn't think that was feet. So 4 3.5 inch squares and 3 4.25 inch squares. This is a very, very easy block, as you will see, but it's very effective. Very pretty block. I think I have not made it yet. So fabric B, I've not put fabric B because they're whatever fabrics you wish. You can make them. You can make this just one color, like a 2-color block, or you could make it. Actually, you could make it like a 5 colors. You'd have fabrics left over because you'll see how I cut it. But what I have done now for my block, hopefully, I have cut 3 4.25 inch squares of 1, 2, 3 high contrast different fabrics for my block. Now what we want to do, this is so easy this week. I sort of beat you up last week with my heart blocks, maybe not. Did you enjoy the heart blocks? I thought they were so much fun. So what I'm going to do is for my 4.25 inch squares, I am going to put them together. I've cut them really nice. Cut them perfectly square. I'm going to scratch them together real nice and put them on a line here. And what we're going to do with our 4.25 inch squares is we're going to cut them twice on the diagonal. I'll bring it down here. Let me see, am I in the frame there? Yeah. Am I in the frame? Yes, I am. I have to get a new tripod. My tripod leg broke. Oh, mate. So, it's real high. So I apologize for that. I'm putting it on my line, and I'm going to cut these. And again, remember, you put the ruler just slightly left of the diagonal, and then you put your cutter on the diagonal and lift it up. And then I'll just come over here, and I'll put my ruler there, and I'll cut twice on the diagonal. So I have all of these little bits of fabric for fabric B. Okay, now with the fabric A, with the 4 1/4 inch squares, you're going to do the exact same thing. Make them so they're nice and square on each other. You've cut them well. Take your time. And we're going to cut them 2 ways on each diagonal. That's the 4 1/4, the larger of your background squares. Okay, now the fun begins. Seriously, design board. Get out your design board, and we can start putting our block together. It's basically a 9-patch with lots of different variations. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a background fabric here, and a background fabric here, and one in the middle, and one over here, same thing. Yeah, you can't really see on my design board, but, and like that. And then we're going to take, I'm going to mix them up. I'm going to mix these up. I'm going to take my dark, and I'm going to mix up my blocks here. Okay, so look how our board is, our block is progressing here so quickly. Look, 9-patch. 1 2 3 4 5 6. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put, aren't these design boards awesome? I'll put that there. Just change it up. That there, and then the exact same thing down here. Whoops, I'm running out of design board. But when we go to sew it together, obviously it will be fine. Well, I should have put that up a little bit. Put that there. Put a circle here. Now you're going to have a couple left over, but that's absolutely fine. And there we have 4 pieces left over. There, look at that. Look at that. Easy peasy, 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 peasy. There's our block. Oh, it's pretty. I'm using my bright whites and my bright reds this week. So now we're going to break it down. Don't get, like all these pieces. Don't get worried, because we're just going to break it down. We're going to take this over to our sewing machine off your design board. Just take them apart so we see what we're working with, each unit. Now, what we're going to be doing is, again, you're going to be very careful. We're going to take these blocks, we're going to make these blocks here, okay? We're going to make our 1 2 3 4 5 blocks. It's like a bow tie or a butterfly or something. Now, each block is constructed exactly the same. You're going to take this piece here. Again, keep it visual, and you're going to come over here, and you're going to stitch on that line. Now again, be very, very careful, because this is on the bias. Remember, this seam here, and this seam here is on the bias. So you're going to be putting the pretty sides together on all of these blocks, okay? You're going to put the pretty sides together, and it would help if you pinned them. Let me go get my pins. over here. So however you take this over to your machine is good. So what you can do, but I don't even really have to pin it because I can see it right in front of me. But by all means, if you're going to go pin it, do that. You're going to put the pretty sides together. And you don't want to get confused with what seam you're pinning. You're going to be sewing, I should say. So there you go. So you're going to go and you're going to sew these units together like that when they're sewn together, and you're going to be doing all 5 of them and put them back on the design board, and then you can take your design board over to your ironing board and then we can press them. And I'm going to go stitch my seams here. I'm going to go stitch each one of these. Remember the configuration. You're doing this seam here, this seam here, this seam here. So you're taking these triangle units over to there. So I'm going to go to my machine and I'll be back. Hi, I have my design board right here. I've already done this one. And what we're going to be doing is I've sewn this unit here, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put my design board over here, and you want to make sure that you're taking the ones you're sewing the proper seam. I don't have to pin this. It's right in front of me. I'm putting these together, this unit, and sewing the 1/4 inch seam. Now what I will do is I will chain piece just these just 2 units here. Put that right under my presser foot, and then right off. And then I'll cut that chain apart, and then very carefully I'm going to open this up, and remember we're going to finger press to the dark side, being very careful not to stretch the seam here. Open that up and just very careful. Don't do it so hard. Just finger press it, and there's our put it right back on the design board. There's the other unit for our 9 patch. Then I'll come in the middle, grab this one. You could get confused as to which seam you're going to be sewing, so you can either pin them ahead of time or just keep it right ahead of you visually. Very important, obviously, to keep your 1/4 inch seam. I guess you guys know, it's funny, when I was searching, I guess you know, when you are sewing on a machine, hopefully this is, you're seeing this, what is this called? Your thread take-up lever should always be at the very highest point, because when you always, let me just put this back. When you always turn your wheel, if you have to turn your wheel, you always turn your wheel towards you. You always turn your hand wheel towards you, and then that's there. That one's that one. So you always turn this hand wheel towards you, and that brings up this thread lever to the very highest. And what that does is that finishes the actual stitch something in your machine, whether it be a computerized machine or a very basic manual machine. It finishes the locking mechanism of the stitch quality. That's like sometimes if you don't have this at the very top, and you go to pull out your threads, it'll be a little bit harder, if it's making any sense. So you always must make sure that you finish your seam with this thread lever at the top to release these threads, just mechanically. It was funny that I learned how to sew in home ec in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade in school. And I was taught before we were even allowed to touch a machine, we were taught, maybe some of you remember, the basic mechanics of a machine. And I always remember Miss Davis, my teacher, she would be like, you always turn the hand wheel. Oh, that's a little bit small. That's all right. You always turn the hand wheel towards you. You never, because that was way before computerized machines. You never turn the hand wheel behind you. And sometimes, there you go, I'm going to turn it towards me, and this is going to come up, and then my thread's nice and released. The inclination is you want your needle to go up, so you turn it away. It's funny that, but you always turn it towards you and sort of make a rotation. And because if you turn it away from you, you can really mess up the mechanics of your machine. Probably you guys knew that. Oh, where'd my piece go? Oh, mate, where did it go? Oh, geez. I lost my one piece. Oh, man. Oh, well, I have another one. I lost my one piece. Where did it go? Oh, well, here, let me just do this. I have another one here. Well, there you go. If you lose your piece, put that there. Yeah, look at that. I lost it somewhere on the floor there. Anyway, that was good. Yeah, so anyway, that's just sewing 101. But some people, when I was showing Jen, she didn't know. I'm like, don't turn your hand wheel backwards. Keep it going forwards. You always turn it towards you. She's like, oh, I didn't know that. So here I am. I'll find that other piece. I'll use this one. And then so here's my seam. And then right off. Pull my hand wheel up. This comes right up to the top, and it releases all of that stuff in there. Okay, and then we'll finger press to the dark gently. Finger press to the dark. And then I'm going to take this over to my ironing board, and we're going to go press our seams. So I'm at my ironing board, and here are my blocks, and they're all sort of squiffy. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to set my seams on each block, on each unit there, and I'm just going to roll that over to the dark side. So I'm over at my, here's that piece. That's funny. So here I am, over my design board. So I'm going to put that down and working with each unit that's nice and pressed. What are we going to do? We're going to take this unit and we're just going to put right sides together, and then you can feel, pretty sides together, you can feel where those two intersecting seams are nested. They're lovely. 1/4 inch seam, you can just feel them with your fingers. So your points are your intersection's going to match beautifully. Now you could chain piece these if you wanted to, but I won't. And there you go. And again, this is on the bias. You can see where it could stretch. So just very carefully press it to one side or the other, because obviously there's dark and light. So we're gonna go set our seam, and we're gonna press from one side to the other. So I'm gonna do all of them like this. I'm gonna feel one seam's going that way, one seam's going that way. Scratch them together. 1/4 inch seam. Press a foot down. Match up your ends nicely. Go slowly. Lever up to release all that thread. You can feel it. Snip our ends. And again, very carefully, I will go and I will set these seams. And even, you can see, even as I'm chatting, I'm getting done. And not taking me very long at all. So this is an easy block. Again, we're just back to a 9 patch, but look at Look at the dozens of ways that you can do a 9 patch. They're fiddly, but you can do it. I have my apron on. My ShopRite apron. A couple people are like, oh, why don't you do an apron tutorial? I'm like, oh, I like my Jean-Pierre's apron. He worked at ShopRite so many years ago. I don't get rid of anything. I'm a very controlled hoarder. Very controlled. I'm the first one to admit it. I'm a hoarder like without the dead cats. Okay, so here we go. So now what I'm going to do is I've ironed all of these, and I won't bore you. I'm just going to go over to my ironing board and I'm going to set that seam real nice, and then very carefully nudge up these 5 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we're just going to come back and make a 9 patch. Here is my 9 patch ready to be sewn together almost. I've set all my seams. I have them in the proper configuration. But now what I want to do is I want to make sure that these units here are squared up to 3.5 inches. And if you can see, yes, I have my diagonal line on my ruler here. And I set it on line there. And then I can go to my 3.5 inches. And pretty much I'm good. I'm just slicing off a little sliver. And also I'm taking off these dog ears. It's just a little sliver that way and that way. And that really does make the world of difference to get your, block nice and square. I've squared up all my units. This is a simple 9 patch. Make sure you keep your configuration properly. What we have here, well, you can do it either way you want, whatever. But I have my background fabrics all matching on these squares. My little bow ties are going all to the side. So we're going to construct it in 3 rows. I'm going to put my pretty sides together on the top row. Scratch them together. And again, I was saying there is a way that we can chain piece the units together. And actually, I have to be honest, I've never really done that. You see quite a lot of tutorials, and they just keep chain piecing, and I think I get a bit confused because the chains are holding stuff together, and then you go back, and I don't know. It looks easy for them to do it, but I don't know if I can do it that way. So I do it this way. I chain piece some things. Now there you go. There is my top row. And then I take my second row and make sure the configuration is right. You can see I have perfect 3.5 inch square units to put together. Pretty sides on that one. This is the middle row. And then our bottom row. Making sure it's all right. I don't back stitch, as you know by now, because these seams here are going to be enclosed in our other intersecting quilting things. So now I have my units here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to see where the fabric wants to go. This one I'm going to press. Actually, that's interesting. That wants to go to the inside. So I'm going, even though it's to the light, I'm pressing that to the inside. Okay? I'm going to set those seams and press that to the inside. This one wants to go out to the outside, and that's to the light, but that's okay. And again, look at that. So what it is if because I'm working with bright red and white, I've addressed this a dozen times before, you don't want your red or a dark color to shadow through. But since I've sewn that just perfectly, there's absolutely zero chance of this shadowing through here. But look how when I go to sew it, how my seams will nest beautifully. So I'm just going to go iron that right now, my 3 rows, and then I'll come back and I'll put them together. My rows have been beautifully pressed where the seams want to go. Now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking my top row and putting it over to my second row. And the way we've pressed these and the way we've set them and the way we've sewn them, most importantly, is you have your 1/4 inch seam here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So when you put pretty sides together and you match up and nest those seams, one seam is going one way, one seam is going the other. By all means, you can put a pin in there if you wish, a pin on either side or a pin in the middle, and then scratch them together, and your 1/4 inch will form the 1/4 inch seam up here, and then just with a 1/4 inch seam I'm going to stitch this along. Scratch them together. You can hear the machine going over that intersection. Go slowly. And hopefully, there you go. My points match beautifully. I take my bottom row, and I have a 1/4 inch seam here, 1/4 inch. I'm going to put this one over here, making sure these intersections are good. I just put one pin sort of there, 1/4 inch. A 1/4 inch there. And then right off, and hopefully that is our 9.5 inch. Yep, there's our 9.5 inch block. I'm going to go over and I'm going to set the seam. I'm going to set that seam. I'm going to go over and hopefully it will make up a 9.5 inch block. But there we go. So here we go. Ta-da! There's our finished block. You will notice that these outside corners here, these darker corners, they look a little bit bigger because they have not been taken up with the seam. So you don't have to worry about that. When that seam is being taken up, they will take on this exact shape here as the center unit. So if you're thinking, oh, they're a little bit, big, you don't have to worry. Now I'm going to see if my block, it's slightly small there. I don't know if I skew it a little bit. It's almost just slightly small there, and just a sliver to be taken off there, and then it's about a 1/16 of an inch off there, and then right here it's a little bit bigger. But there you go. There is my perfect, almost perfect. It's slightly small there. I can even see it. It's fine. 9.5 inch butterfly or bow tie or whatever kind of block you want. Lots of contrast. Again, you could make these all different colors if you want with your scraps. You are sewing on the bias, so just be very careful, but you could make that really as colorful as you wish. If you're just using your scraps in multicolor, which quite a lot of you are. They're beautiful blocks that are being sent. So there is our block number 25. I hope you love it. And yeah, on to block number 26. Okay, folks, thanks. See ya.